The banquet hall shimmered with golden lights, the smell of roasted turkey filling the air. Laughter echoed between the chandeliers as guests clinked glasses, but one voice suddenly cut through the warmth like a blade. Robert, my own father, slammed his hand on the table and sneered, his voice sharp enough for the entire hall to hear. She'll never be strong enough. The words landed like a slap. Heads turned. Forks froze midair. My cheeks burned as whispers rippled across the tables. For years, I had endured his doubts in silence, but tonight he had chosen to strip away my dignity in front of cousins, neighbors, and old family friends. My heart pounded, my breath caught in my chest. I wanted to speak, to fight back. But instead, I looked at him, silent, steady, while everyone waited to see if I would crumble. Would I bow my head in shame, or prove him wrong? I was 26, but my father had treated me as if I were still a child. Growing up, I had always been the quiet one, while my brother Charles got praised for his loud voice and swagger. I was told to stay in the background, to smile politely, to accept less. At the county fair, I remember begging to ride the small fighter jet simulator they'd brought in for children. My eyes sparkled with excitement, but father shook his head and laughed in front of the crowd. She can't handle even a ride, let alone a real machine. The sting of those words had followed me for years. In school, whenever I excelled, he dismissed it as luck. When I pushed myself harder, he called it pointless ambition. He was a man who believed strength only belonged to men, and he never let me forget it. But while father mocked me, I carved my own path. Long nights of study, sweat-filled training sessions, and years of determination built the life he never thought possible, and yet, here I was, standing again in his shadow. The banquet hall's chandeliers blurred through the mist in my eyes. But I held my breath steady. Around me, the guests leaned in, sensing the storm beneath my silence. Father smirked across the table, confident he had broken me once more. His voice lowered, but the cruelty remained. You'll always be weak, Margaret. The laughter of a few nearby guests joined him, soft but cutting, as though my worth was nothing more than a dinner joke. Inside, my fists tightened under the tablecloth. Not yet, I told myself. The time for my answer was close. The hall buzzed with whispers after my father's cutting remark. I lifted my glass slowly, my hand steady though my heart hammered inside my chest. The chandelier's golden light reflected off the silver cutlery, and I could feel every pair of eyes fixed on me, waiting, judging. Father wasn't done. He leaned back in his chair, his voice rising louder this time, making sure the entire banquet hall heard him. Tell me, Margaret, he said mockingly, what have you ever accomplished that matters? You can't even make decisions without trembling. Lock her in a real jet, and she'd faint before takeoff. A few guests chuckled nervously, unsure if they should laugh or look away. The humiliation burned deep. My throat tightened, but I pressed my lips together, refusing to give him the satisfaction of seeing me break. Across the table, my cousin Linda whispered something to her husband, eyes darting toward me with pity. Others leaned closer, as though expecting a scene. Father had drawn all attention to me, determined to prove I was nothing more than his fragile daughter. I inhaled slowly, steadying myself. My fingers brushed against the thin leather strap of the wristwatch I wore, a simple accessory to most, but to me it was more than that. A symbol of the years I had fought in silence, the battles I had won where no one had believed I could. Father's laughter rang out again, harsher this time. She pretends she's strong, but she'll never carry real weight. Weakness runs in her veins. The words echoed off the hall's polished walls, landing heavy in every corner. I met his eyes then, calm, unflinching. A few guests noticed the change, the way my stare didn't waver, the way my silence carried more weight than his cruel jokes. The tension grew unbearable. Even the band playing soft jazz in the corner stumbled to a stop, as if the music itself was holding its breath. I remained seated, still and composed. Inside, though, I whispered to myself, wait. Just a little longer. Let him think he's won, because when the truth came out, it wouldn't just silence him, it would freeze the entire room. The air in the banquet hall turned heavy, thick with unspoken tension. Father's smirk widened as he raised his glass, ready to pour another insult. But this time, I didn't lower my gaze. Instead, I stood. The scrape of my chair against the polished floor silenced the room. Every head turned as I pulled back the sleeve of my dress, revealing the mark etched into the skin of my wrist. Gasps rippled through the crowd. It wasn't just a tattoo, it was the unmistakable emblem of the elite unit I had earned my place in. For years, I had trained in silence, hidden from their ridicule. And now, the proof was burned into my skin, the mark of a fighter pilot, recognized by every military man and woman in the country. Whispers erupted, that's the Air Force crest. She's a pilot? No, she's more than that. Father's glass slipped in his hand, spilling wine across the white tablecloth. His face drained of color. The man who once mocked me in public now looked pale, frozen in disbelief. I took a slow breath, my voice calm yet commanding. You locked me in a jet once, father. Laughing, saying I'd never last a second. Do you remember? He said nothing, his lips parted, but no sound came. I stepped closer, my heels clicking against the marble floor. Well, I didn't faint. I didn't fall. I flew. And while you spent years tearing me down, I rose higher than you could ever imagine. The hall fell into stunned silence. Soldiers among the guests rose instinctively, offering me a salute. Their sharp movements echoed louder than any applause. Father's chair creaked as he gripped its arms, pale and trembling. The man who had humiliated me now sat powerless, surrounded by witnesses who had seen the truth, for the first time in my life. He had no words. The hall remained frozen, as if time itself had stopped. My father's lips trembled, his once booming voice gone. The proud man who had belittled me my whole life now sat hunched, pale as marble, his arrogance shattered in front of everyone he had tried to impress. A slow clap broke the silence. Then, another. Within seconds, the entire hall erupted in applause. Some rose to their feet, saluting, others simply bowing their heads in respect. The sound thundered through the chandeliers, drowning out every cruel word that had ever been spoken. About me. I didn't need to shout. I didn't need revenge carved in anger. My presence, my uniform, and the mark on my wrist had already delivered the justice he deserved. I turned to the crowd, nodded once, and gathered my composure. My heels echoed softly against the floor as I walked toward the grand doors. Behind me, the applause still roared, but I never looked back. For the first time, I didn't need my father's approval. I had earned something far greater, respect. At the doorway, I paused just long enough for my voice to carry back through the hall. Strength isn't given. It's proven. And with that, I left the hall in silence, my dignity intact. My father buried in the humiliation of his own words. Moral: respect cannot be stolen, it must be earned.